Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for March Comes In Like a Lion, chapter 186. When we last left our heroes, we focused back in on Nikaido as he tries to react to Rei's shogi playing, but he's just kind of confused at how defensive Rei's being, and how just like completely, expressionless Rei's face is, which gets him to start thinking about the term poker face, and why the term poker face has no Japanese equivalent despite the particularities of Japanese history. It's a fun little tangent that ends with Harunobu ending up on the roof just while he was wandering trying to go to the bathroom, I think, which leads to a meditation that we only get for the last page of last chapter on how, all the people that he and Rei used to play with as children have left shogi, and it's just the two of them who are still there. And that's where we left off. So let's dive right on into chapter 186, Path, part 4. Our picture here continues, more fun times with Nobidome. I'd very muscle like to show you my favorite shortcut. Ooh, I'd very muscle like if you did. Still the same, he's going for a run storyline that we've had going on since, like, the Nobidome match years ago. But yeah, anyway, we opened just where we left off, with Harunobu continuing his thinking. It's odd to think about, but all those smiling folks back then are gone now. And us two that were always bawling our eyes out are still here fighting, even now. Though, of course, we're not bawling our eyes out anymore. And he stops for a sec before thinking, yeah, right. We still cry plenty. And if things don't go well, it'll keep happening in the future. Every time we have a brutal loss, we'll probably be crying no matter how old we get. And we see this image of Harunobu with, like, head clutched against a wall, and then him again in this, like, field of water, and another image of him at home alone in his bed. I'm not scared of crying. What I'm scared of is that after I'm done crying, I won't be able to stand up again. Only that. Nothing else. It's only natural to cry when you lose. That chagrin is like coal. If you make it burn inside you, it makes flames rise up, and that heat can power you forward. And we have this image of Harunobu wrapped in chains connected to, like, a carriage, the image in my head is like a hearse, shaped like a shogi piece. A very, very kind of on-the-nose metaphor of him being sort of using that energy to, like, have him drag his shogi forward. And then he thinks, but what about you, Kiriyama? If you have a partner in your life you can cry and vent to, are you sure you won't feel refreshed, go absent-minded, and end up apathetic? That's what I'm worried about. And we have a counter image to Harunobu of Rei and Hina, like, lying in this like, pool, very sort of at peace. And it goes back to sort of what we saw back in, I think, 183? Like, back in June or something? When Harunobu was like, how could you give up that fire? I would never do that, before realizing, yes, he would. Which, this feels somewhat like a retread of that. I don't know. Let's see how it plays out. And then he goes back to thinking, it's a sort of glowing face, I guess, that he had with Hina. And seriously, what's with that face? What are you, a cheery 6-month-old Jack Russell Terrier? Found the perfect stick in the park so his energy levels are through the roof? And there's this image of a young dog, like, jumping up and down. Look, master, look! You have someone you need to protect. The switch you need to be flipping isn't the childlike curiosity switch. It's the switch of spirit and motivation, ain't it? And we see he's, like, still on the roof, like, screaming. You should be putting on a face like you've got something you gotta protect, right? The heck are you doing activating on your own like that? Which is interesting, because I don't think he really needs to protect Hina. There's not really a protection motif going on with him and Hina. This isn't like some shonen battle series. He wants to be with her, but that's not the same thing as protecting her. I don't know. I do like this little note at the bottom. This was photographed as a panorama, as, like, we see the ledge in this, like, curved V shape. And then it sort of stops. I think I'm actually angry over this. I just wanted to take that last game as a learning experience. and play a steady, deliberately built-up deep game. And then you went and brought back that central Hisha from the last game. So it seems like all of these issues are kind of piling onto Harunobu at the same time here, and he's just sort of lashing out almost. And then 2-8 Gin on top of that? I know you, so I'm assuming you have something or other in mind by doing that, and I think you have trust in me. But what do you think you're doing not setting up any fortifications on your Gyoku and just burying it in cement? What the heck are you going to do from this point? Anaguma? Silver Crown? And we have this image of the same sort of shogi piece from last time, still sort of panicking over being surrounded by its own forces. That giddy Four Eyes! Since it's come to this, my only option is to retrain him. Any plans regarding running around with a Jack Russell Terrier are denied. What I'm going to do is use my deliberately built-up giant battleship and sink your spur-of-the-moment dinghy to the bottom of the sea. We have this image of Harunobu as like a sea captain on this giant ship with a banner saying, "Return of the classic approach. Sangatsu no Lion to be continued." From what I've heard, there's no issue in the next chapter, which means our next issue is, I think, on the 24th of December at the earliest, I think. If they even have one on Christmas Eve. If not, then this is the last chapter of the year. But anyway, let's take a look at this chapter. So, when did Harunobu, my first question is, when did Harunobu see the sort of light up face? Because the way that, on page 5 here, the top half, the way these two images of Rei are framed, it looks like that Harunobu saw him during the New Year's snack expedition. Because that's the only time I can remember like that sort of pose with Rei and Hina. But where did he see that? Where did he see that lit up face? Because he hasn't really had that during the match, has he? Unless that's the face he did, if I can go back for a second, when the match first started. Yeah, back at like the end of 181, when he did the central Hisha. Yeah. So here, the last page 181, we do see the same face, is what Harunobu is sort of complaining about. So even that early, that's not quite a Hina complaint. That's you're back on that central Hisha bullshit. And I did not want to do that at all. But it's still this concept of you have to protect Hina that's just not really backed up by any of Rei's, by either the content of the series or any of Rei's motivation. He never really frames that as a must protect sort of thing. I don't know. It's a weird little bit for Harunobu. And we do see, though, that he's not quite as a perfect little sunshine boy who loves everyone. Who can, like... That's putting it a little bit too broadly. But he's not as okay with what's going on as that moment back at the end of 183 sort of let on. Where he acknowledges that, like, he would do the exact same thing as Rei given the opportunity. And all of that stuff. So it's nice to see some even if I would kind of like him to be this perfect sunshine boy, he does have some sort of minor darkness to him, where he's not quite as forgiving as maybe Rei deserves. But yeah, all in all, it's very light, and we're seeing sort of, Harunobu is, again, he's sort of almost erased that contrast back in 183 between him and Rei, but he's sort of building that back up again. I guess he's seeing Rei make a weird move like that, and maybe sort of change his mind. Like, actually, maybe his time with Hina is sort of changing him for the worse as a shogi player. For the better as a person, of course. But Harunobu, I think, is maybe a little too interested in Rei as a shogi rival rather than as a human being, in the way that his time with the Kawamoto sort of improves him on. I don't know. Harunobu is sort of ready to bring Rei down. And I want to think for a moment on this arc as a whole. Because, I've been of the assumption that, like, we'd see Rei keep winning through the tournament as this sort of capstone of the series, right? He's playing Harunobu, and then after that he'll play Shimada, and then I think it's not straight after Shimada that he plays Soya Meijin, right? So I think But even if so, that's sort of where it goes up, sort of this encapsulation of the shogi side of the series in this tournament. But it's interesting that Harunobu has been our focus character this whole arc. Like, every single Path chapter has been from Harunobu's perspective. And so maybe Harunobu will win this. And if so, that is sort of, during that 3-month hiatus, I rewatched the first season. And I sort of, for a moment, came to the conclusion maybe the best choice for Rei is to just leave Shogi altogether. And seeing this arc, you can kind of make a case for that almost. As Rei is becoming a better human being, being, more fulfilled, more engaged with the world, more, filled with self-love, and love for others, if Harunobu is right, he's becoming a worse shogi player. And I think it's fairly clear the arc of the series is that being a better person is definitely better than being a better shogi player. And so maybe that's how the series ends. He, retires from shogi and either, becomes like a house husband to Hina's dreams of running the shop, or he helps Hina with the shop or something. I don't know. Things to think about. And it might be way off base there. I probably am way off base there on some level. But I don't know. Lots of things to think about here, given, Harunobu's focus. It might just be Harunobu losing, and the message is then that it is by becoming a better person, a more well-rounded human being, that Rei has become the better player and just ends up beating Harunobu like this. And we see Harunobu have to learn that lesson himself, maybe? I don't know. Lots of things to think about. As always, March is a fantastic series, even if we only got 6 actual story pages this week. And we'll have to wait at least a month for more. But when they're this meaty, when they're this full of thematic work, of character work, of potential, series ending thoughts, there's always just a whole lot to love in March Comes in Like a Lion. It's why it's one of the best. So yeah, I'm going to leave this video off here, I think. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes it happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!